good day. We're going to have some fun with this. Okay, here we go. We're out on the river. This is the North Umpqua River. Paddling the canoe. And I wanted to talk to you just a little bit. I know I don't look all the best, but this is the way XPJs sometimes look. My name's John Ratliff. I live here in Roseburg, Oregon on the North Umpqua River, and I wanted to talk to you, Kimmy, Lisa, Symphony, and especially to the grandkids. James Jr. is a little young for this, and he'll have to wait for a while. But CJ and Brian, I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about your grandfather and about life. Life in general. We're on a river, we're being blown by the wind. Rivers have currents, winds have their directions, and sometimes they don't meet. And what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about is an essay that I wrote initially called The River of Life. But rather than an essay, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about life in general, a little bit about the ups and downs of life, the ins and outs, the whirlwinds, the whirlpools, the currents. Right now we're in the river. We're right in the middle of the current, you can see that. We've got sun behind us, which is kind of neat. We're going to go across the current here, and although you can't see in front of you, I can. There's a little whirl coming up. It's going to show us just off to my left here. There it is. Now we're being pushed a little bit, and we'll move it over just a little bit here. There we go. Now we're in an eddy just out of the current. It doesn't look like an eddy, but it is. It's a place where the water doesn't go quite as fast. Now, life in general will have its currents and its eddies. I know that Kimmy and Lisa have been through a lot. They know about life's currents and life's eddies and some of the problems in life. CJ, Ryan, you're just beginning to learn. But there's a lot here to learn about, and this river is a great teacher. Right now, I'm coming up to a part of the river that's a little bit different. We're right behind a fallen over limb on a tree, and you'll see that as we pass it. I'm going to move ahead here. It'll take just a moment, but basically we're in the lee of this tree. The tree itself is causing a break in the current, so I can sit here in the current and not paddle and stay still, actually be sucked up towards upstream. Now I'm going to move a little bit to the camera's right, my left, and into the main current and go around this tree, and you'll see what we've got. There's a bunch of stuff stuck on this tree. Now, why is the stuff stuck? Well, we had high water, higher than it is now. It's fairly high right now. Here, we'll get over here where you can see it. And there was a lot of debris coming down the river that got stuck right in it. You can see the tree limb behind me now. There's a lot to say about that. People get stuck sometimes in places they don't want to be, doing things they don't want to do. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit, as soon as we get a little bit more here. I've got the sun behind me there, so I'm not sure how much is showing on my face. I'll turn around just a little bit so you can see me a little bit better. There we go. And I'll go upstream a little bit further here. Now this is going to take a little bit more paddling, so I'm going to be sounding just a little bit. There we go. A little bit more tired in a minute, because it's going to take just a little bit to get up this current. A lot of people don't know that canoes can go upstream. A lot of people think that they can only go downstream. Well, this shows that that's not true. Okay, I'm in a fairly heavy current right now. No real rapids. I mean, this is about 6 inches or so at the most. But it's a fairly heavy current. And you can see us bouncing around a bit. The sun's behind me, and it's turning out to be a beautiful day. It was raining just a little bit before here, and I thought just maybe I wouldn't be able to do this today, but I'm glad I decided to do it. Okay, I'm very slowly coming up on a tree that's upstream from us. And once I'm there, I'll cut over towards the other side. After I get a little bit above it, you'll see what I'm talking about here. Okay, I'm paddling fairly hard for me. I'm an old guy, you know. So this is not an easy paddle. But this little branch in the tree is breaking way for me. And I'll try to go to the right of it, which is on the left side of the screen here, and get above it and then go across the river, which will be to the right, as you see. Okay. This is taking just a little bit of time. Okay, I'm above that branch that I came up above on the tree. Now I'm going to go around it, and you should be able to see it coming in behind me. And we'll go across the river here again. We'll face into the current and go across here fairly easily in the canoe. There'll be a little bit of bumps. We don't have many big waves here, but you'll see what I mean. And then we'll get into some stiller water, and I want to talk a little bit about River of Life. What life has, what its meaning is for me, and how Kimmy and Lisa, your dad, Symphony, your dad, and then for CJ and James and Ryan, your grandfather, what his effect has been on me, because it's been great. And because it's been great on me and on Julie, it continues to be great. And I'll demonstrate that to you and why it's important to know that people's love matters a lot. Now we're just drifting down, kind of in a sort of back eddy here. In rivers, or in life, let's talk about life in general. In school, you have more difficult subjects and easier subjects. You have things you like to do and things you hate to do. And if you can think about them in terms of this river, with the river's water and current being time, and with the river's waves and rapids and eddies and still areas being areas in that time of your life, then you can have a little bit of an idea of how life will treat you. Okay, I'm going to swing around, and I've got to go around a tree here. Get back out into the current a little bit here. Last winter we had some really, really heavy floods. Today we've got one heck of a wind, and this wind is blowing against me and blowing me upstream while I'm trying to go downstream. In life, you will find conflicting things. You will find sometimes where people will say, you ought to do this or you ought to do that. And your parents will say, you ought to do this or you ought to do that. And sometimes they don't match. Just like the wind today is trying to blow me upstream and the current's trying to carry me downstream. Well, you've got to determine your path and what's right for you. It's important that you set a path in your life and understand where you want to go, what you want to do, and how you might want to get there. You won't always get there the way you think, but at least you'll try. Now we're going to come down in the stiller area here. I'm going to get real close to the bank so you can see behind me the trees that got knocked over last winter in the flood. Here, we're coming over towards them. Again, the wind's pushing me one way and the water the other. Actually, I'm in a back eddy now, so the water's kind of trying to push me upstream too. Now, back eddy, the river's trying to go this way, and then it comes around and comes up. Now, off to the left part of your screen, you'll see this tree that has been demolished last year. And as we go by it, I'll turn around and I'll show you the bank where there used to be trees and the trees are no longer there. Right behind me. I'll turn around a little bit and you can see over here where these roots are. We'll just turn all the way around. Almost right behind me now, over here, there's a tree that used to be there last year that's no longer there. And because it's no longer there, it's got to go somewhere. Well, it went in the river, and one of the trees is still in the river. Now we'll move over here and we'll go by that tree. In the summertime, when the water's lower and warmer and prettier, I go scuba diving in here. But right now, because it's high and mucky and everything, I'd rather be canoeing. Now I'll talk about preparedness in just a minute too. You got to be prepared for the things of life that might come to you. This is what Jim and I, CJ and Ryan and James, your grandfather, were trained highly to do, is be prepared. Preparation is important, and that's why schooling is important, because it prepares you for those things in life that you will be seeing and you will be experiencing. Okay, just a moment. The tree's off to my right here. It's right over here. You will see it. I'm going to orient the canoe so that you can see it behind me. That tree right there, that one right there, used to be standing up on the bank over here. It's no longer there. And a lot of the trees that were here are no longer there. You'll see on the side over there, and I'll show you again. Just move us around a little bit. You see that the bank has eroded away and has slipped down. Over here, water is a powerful force, just like time is a powerful force. In time, we can't go back. We can't see into the future. It's like being on this river and being able to see only what's immediately around you. And not knowing what rapids are ahead of you, what obstacles you might face, and how you're going to face them. Now, right now, you can see that I'm wearing a wetsuit. It's not a full wetsuit, but it's enough for this weather. It's about 50 degrees here in Oregon. And the wetsuit allows me to be out here and be warm even at 50 degrees. And if something happens, it allows me to stay alive in cold, cold water. Now, in addition to the wetsuit, I've got a personal flotation device on. This particular one is one I designed myself. It's not commercially available. It's got a parachute type harness that Jim and I used when we made some parascuba jumps and regular parachute jumps, attached to the regular foam here, and it goes underneath our arms. Now what it does is it allows for a life vest that cannot go out off over my head. This is how I prepared for coming out on this river. I know I can live here. I know I can survive, and I can thrive, and I can be out here without any problem. I work in the safety field, and in workplaces we call this personal protective equipment. It's equipment that protects us from the environment. Jim and I, when we made parascuba jumps, we'd dress in wetsuits, we'd have scuba tank on, a regulator, mask fin, snorkel. The mask was on our neck and behind our head. And then we put a parachute on over the top of that and a reserve parachute on in front of us. And sometimes when we were jumping on a mission or something like that, we'd wear a medical kit underneath the reserve parachute and what we called a butt boat, or a one-man life raft underneath our rear end. And it was attached to the harness too. So when we jumped out of an airplane, actually we kind of fell. With 150 pounds of gear on, you don't really jump too far. But when we went out the aircraft, we had all of the equipment we needed to survive in the ocean. And we had people that jumped on ships in the middle of the Pacific. Had one real interesting mission that I wasn't on, but a pair of pararescuemen jumped in the middle of the Pacific about 500 miles north of Hawaii onto a Korean freighter, they thought, actually. Well, one of the guys made it to the Korean freighter, and one of the guys was picked up by a Japanese freighter. The guy that made it to the Korean freighter treated a fellow for an injury, and then had to stay on the freighter until it docked in Seattle. And the other fella, picked up by the Japanese freighter, he went to Japan. So the two of them kind of split and met about a month and a half later. It was really interesting. Really a kind of a funny story too, because the fella, when he came in, he was wearing Korean pajamas and thongs. He had a wetsuit in his bag. He had a life raft and a parachute and a medical kit with narcotics and no identification tag except for his dog tags. And they were about ready to arrest him when he told them to call headquarters ARRS to find out who he was. Well, what I'm trying to say is that we need to prepare ourselves for life. And the training that Jim and I received, the 8 months of training in Orlando, Florida, and all over the United States actually, prepared us to do a number of things. It prepared us to jump out of airplanes. It prepared us to give medical training to people that were hurt anywhere in the world. It didn't matter. Jim was on the Apollo rescue team. Now there's that tree again. We've been kind of going around it. Jim was on Apollo rescue team and was prepared to jump on the Apollo astronauts. They never needed that type of treatment, but he was prepared. I was on Apollo 13 rescue team when it launched out of Orlando, Florida. Now I was out of Orlando. It was launched from Cape Kennedy at that time, Cape Canaveral now. And I'm going to try and get us away from this bank here. And it was clearly visible from 60 miles away going up into the sky. A huge, brilliant orange flame going up into the sky. Just a gorgeous sight to see that rocket ship, the Saturn V, take off. And Jim has seen that. Now, why do I say Jim has seen that? Well, I have a particular belief. I don't think that people, when they die, are gone. They're gone from us, but they're not gone from everything. That's why I have a little demonstration to show you. Now, if we look at the river and we look at the air, we see that the air is at cross purposes. Right now I'm being twisted around by the air, blown by the air. And it's not in the direction that I necessarily want to go. The water is right now going the same direction as the air, but as soon as I get out a little further here, the water will be going in a different direction. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to take the camera off so that I can show you this demonstration. Basically, I have some balloons here, and I'll show you these balloons right here. You can see that these balloons are filled partially with water and partially with air. The balloons, I'm going to put them in the water in a minute, and I want you to watch what happens to the balloons. I want you to watch them. Now, if we think about it, and we think about the river in different terms, the river has water, the air is a gas, and if we think about people in different terms, and if we think about the river as being a flow of time and of love, and this analogy of the river here being water, being love, then you can get an idea of what I'm trying to say. Every one of us is filled with love and hate and anger. We have conflicting emotions. We have both of them inside us in varying degrees. Some people have lots of love, some people have a little bit of love. Some of these balloons have lots of water and some of them have only a little bit of water. And I'm going to show you what happens to these balloons. Got to get out of the current here a little bit. When they get in the river, because that will show you a little bit about life in general and how you might want to prepare yourself not only with education but with your mind and your thinking and the love that you show your fellow people. Love is the most important force in the world. Without it, people die. Babies without love die. They can be handled and fed and everything, and they will still die without love. Because we need it to survive. But some people get so filled with hate and anger that they lose their capacity to love. Some of these people have been in history. People like Hitler, people who don't understand that love is essential for everyone. Now, when we talk about love, we've got to talk about how we treat people. We treat them with kindness and forgiveness. This is some of the qualities that Jim had. We work with joy, happiness, even in bad situations, even in situations where we should be angry. Still, we work through it, work through our anger, and say, hey, I'm me. I'm a person that's capable of loving somebody else, even when the circumstances are bad. Okay, just a moment here. I'm going to go up here and go ashore because the camera that I need to rely on is up on a tripod mount up on the bow here. So I'm going to get up and go to shore here, take the camera off, then I'll come back here and begin again. Actually, I might not. I might just move the camera over to one side so that it's pointing to one side. Okay, just about there. Good. Okay, I'm going to move the camera over, tilt it down a bit. So that it's off to my left side. There we go. And then we'll try this out again. As you can see, the wind's blowing the canoe around, and I'm having to compensate. Okay, I'm going to turn us around a bit. See that bush coming by us. Go out and get into a different part of the river here where there's a little bit more light. And then we'll start this little experiment. It'll take a moment. There we go. Okay, we're coming down into the pool of water. This is an eddy now. And you'll see some more ripples here in just a moment where the main current hits this eddy. And also ripples from the wind. We've got a good wind today. I'll try and keep us aimed into the wind so you can see this. And I'm going to move us out just a little bit to where the water is going against the wind. Now, why would I do that? Well, there's a purpose in this. Okay. There we go. I'm going to take these balloons, dump them in. Look at that. There they go. Whoops. See them there? Behind me? Now you're going to see something here. You're going to see the wind blowing those. I'm going to turn around so you can see it. Behind me there. Blowing those in different directions. The ones that are in the water that have more water than air are going with the current, the water current. The ones that are not are going with the wind. Now let me try and get a little bit closer to them. I'm getting blown around just a little bit here too. Okay, there we are. See them right there? And you can see these ones that have more water or more air in them, right over here, right behind me, are being blown over towards the shore by the wind. Whereas the other ones with more water in them are way downstream from here. Now I'm going to go around these ones with air in them, more air in them. And you'll see that the ones with the most air, this one and this one over here, it's going to come up right behind us here in just a moment. This one right out over here, I'm not sure if you can see it or not, right back over there. They are, I'm going to have to move us away from that tree again. There we go. Move that over the top. They are separated by a long distance now from the balloons with more water in them. And I'm coming up on the balloons with more water. We'll see them in just a moment. Now they're staying fairly close together. Why do you suppose that is? Well, they're in the water current. Now they're in a bit of an eddy now, but they're going to be going downstream. See this one right here? It's right there. And I think we're just about over the top of another one. There it is. Right there. See it right here? Now I'm going to do something that you might not expect. I'm going to pop this one. If I can get my diving knife out. I'm being blown around again. Let me try a different one here. There it is. Let me move back. See if I can get close enough to it. Well, I'll try this one right, this white one over here. Now I want you to notice something when I pop it. There it is. I'm not getting close enough, am I? Now let me bring it in just a little bit. Can't do it. I don't want to lose my dive knife. Well, let's go for one of the airfield ones. Over here. Okay. We're going to have to get quite a ways away. Those ones are going downstream with the river. If I'm able to get close enough. There it goes. Now, what happened when the balloon was popped? I tore a gash right in the side of it, and all of the air got out, and all of the water joined with the river, and all we had was an empty shell of a balloon that sank immediately. Well, at some point or another, all life dies. But that doesn't mean that its life force dies with it. It means it combines with love already in the universe. Just as the water that was in the balloon combined with the river's water, so too do we combine with the life force that brought us into being. Now, there's a lot of different religions, and I don't know what your religion is or what you're going to be, but a lot of them have the same theme. That theme is that we've got to do something about hate in this world, and anger, and do something to overcome it. Now here's another balloon we're coming up on. I'm going to hit it. Now that one didn't go. Now that one was kind of shriveled. It was almost all air. Almost no water in it. And because of that, it was kind of hard to kill. Well, there are some evil people that are kind of hard to kill in this world too. They last a long time and they slowly shrivel up and lose all of their gas. Now there's a lot of people that are filled with hot air in this world. They aren't going to make a whole lot of difference because they won't contribute much to the life force of love in this world. Here's another balloon I'm coming up. This one's got a lot of hot air in it. And that one blew real well. Now, there's a lot of people in this world with hot air, and they will tell you a lot of things. They will tell you lies sometimes. They won't tell the truth. Those people you shouldn't pay attention to. They can say a lot of different things, but at the same time, they make a lot of promises sometimes. At the same time, They are not to be trusted because their promises aren't backed up with love. People who love, when they make promises, they keep their word. And this is one other thing I want to tell you about your grandfather and your father, Jim. He made a promise to the Air Force, and that was that he would be committed to the mission of saving lives. He held that commitment high in his life. It was a very important one, and I know Julie has alluded to that fact. Because of him, there are a lot of people alive today who wouldn't be alive today. He contributed immensely to the good of this world. Now there's one thing about these balloons. The other balloons are on down the river. Oh, there's one. I can still see one, but the others are down the river. The one that's being blown around in the wind won't go down very far. It'll get hung up someplace. It's like these politicians that get hung up someplace. They don't understand that behind your words you have to have some sort of commitment. Now if you hold on just a second, I'm going to try and gently move the camera over. That won't work. Okay. Well, I'm going to go back and move the camera again. We're through with the demonstration. And I want the camera to be focused mainly on me at this point. Actually, what I might do is point it forward so you can see where we're going. Let me get back to the balloons, though, for just a moment, because it's still important. There's a lot of people that don't mean what they say, is what I'm trying to say. They don't have the force of their own personal ethics and values behind what they say. And because of that, they are not to be believed. Somebody who means what he says is willing to put it on his line, on the line for what he says. In other words, he will keep his word. Now, it's not always possible to do that because there are circumstances that occur. This river, and I'm going to dock here and I'll be talking as I do, but this river at times has islands. And if we put the balloons in the river, some of the balloons would go on one side of the island and some on the other. And it would not be anything that they could help. They were in slightly different currents and got caught by that. Now, the same thing happens to us. At times, we get caught in the currents of time. A bit. That should do it. And because we're caught in the currents of time, we go directions and places we don't necessarily want to go, and have to see things and be places that we don't want to be, and be in events that we don't want to be a part of. Back and probably pick up, I can still see it, that one red balloon that's over there. It has a lot of air in it and just a little bit of water. So it didn't go down the river. It's being blown by the wind, and as the wind changes directions, it goes in a different direction. Because it doesn't have a direction of its own. It's like a politician who takes polls all the time and tries to determine what people are thinking rather than making decisions based on his own personal conscience and values. Sometimes I think we have too much poll taking and not enough real deep introspection. Okay, I'm coming up on the red balloon. See, I'm going to be able to grab this thing because it's not down in the river. I'm going to move over. I think I might be able to just reach over and grab it. There it is. Look at that shriveled up little thing. I can throw it there and I can't even... couldn't even keep it in the boat when I threw it. The wind blew it right out of the boat. What am I saying? Well, Some people get blown out by events. They don't understand the events, but they go with the wind. They decide that they're not going to buck anything, that their values don't have to change. That their commitments aren't commitments, and that what they're doing is correct. Sometimes we do things wrong. I could have come out here, this is my parents' camera, and tipped over this canoe. I don't think I will, I've got enough experience on it now. But I could have. And in doing so, I would have lost a valuable piece of equipment. But without this piece of equipment, I can't show you what I wanted to show you today. And that's important. Now we're coming up on our destination. A lot of times it's a good idea to have a destination in mind. If you're going to school, now CJ, Ryan, James is real young yet for this, but CJ and Ryan, you're up there. You need to work real hard at school because school is preparing you, just like school prepared your grandfather for his life. You also need to be thinking about what you want to do in life. What do you want to contribute in life? Where do you want to go in this life? There's so many places to see and be and feel and understand. But when you do that, when you go, I want you to think about this river, and I want you to think about your grandfather, because your grandfather contributed to your being where you're at. Without his love, without a lot of people's love, we wouldn't be where we are at. We had a country years and years ago that was dominated by the British, and we decided to be independent. There's a lot of people fought and lost their lives so we could be independent and be the country that we are now. Your grandfather did that too, in a different country, in Vietnam. It's important to understand that because he's not around doesn't mean that his life force isn't still contributing. It lives in all of us. And because this life force still lives, we are able to carry on and have the kind of country that we want. A country where we're free to do the things that we desire. A country where we can love and enjoy it. A country where we can learn and contribute. Okay, here we go again. We talked about the balloons, and I showed you what happened with them. Now we're going to go down a little bit here, go across a little bit more current to talk about rivers and life. I'm shooting this towards the end of January, and as you can see, the weather changes daily. This is our third day of shooting actually for this whole thing. But I'm going to go down and show you a couple of things here and make some analogies with the balloons as we do it. We're coming down a little bit more current right now. We're not going very fast. We're going to come across a couple more dead trees that have been blown down. They're going to be coming up on the screen's left, on my right. I'm almost ready to touch them right there. There you can see them. And you can see a little bit of a current that we're in now. And that's pretty normal. Now I'm going to go down here and turn us around and head up into the current so you can see a little bit more of what's going on behind me and around me. But in our river of life, there are all sorts of currents and eddies and obstacles and so on. Right in front of me is a large current, but right in front of that, like we had before, is an eddy caused by probably one of those downed trees. And right now, I'm sitting in it, and as you can see, I don't have to hardly move, and I can stay still, even in this current. And that happens to us when we get into our jobs and life. Time can almost stand still, where we don't have to do a whole lot, and not a whole lot changes. I checked up as I was looking yesterday, and I can see that it's going to take a few years before the kids are going to be really, the grandkids are really going to be ready for this discussion. But it'll be there for them when they are. Now right below us, and I'm going to go up ahead of it so you can see it. I'm going to get up here. You can see how I'm not hardly paddling at all, and yet there's quite a current right here. Now I'll go back into that eddy that was formed right over there. It's just right off the side here. I'll just move us over, back into it, and we can again stay almost in plane here. There we go. And I can just sit here for a little bit and barely even do anything. The water keeps on going around me. Isn't that amazing? And that happens to us in our lives. And then sometimes something happens to throw us out of the eddy. That happened with me just a little while ago, about a year and a half ago. I got fired from a job and got thrown out of the eddy. And it's caused a lot of chaos in our lives. Julie, that happened with you, I'm sure, years ago when the tragedy occurred to Jim. You got thrown out of your eddy. Now, when we do that, we got to find other eddies. We got to find other places to rest. And sometimes we got to go in the current for a while. Right now, we're in a fairly decent current. And I'm just finding another eddy towards the center of the river here. And maybe I can go up above one and show you what they look like in the river. Now I'm going across, almost directly across the current, and I'm going to have to stroke fairly hard because of the current here. But I can still go upstream of this current. What I'm going to do is go upstream of this eddy that is behind this tree so that you can see it. There it is, right there. And then I'm going to back into it. And we can stay pretty much easily right here. Time has a way of doing that, but sometimes we can't see these eddies. So we've got to start looking for them. Sometimes when we think we've found one, like this one, we've got to stay real close or we'll be swept away. Here I'm right in the middle of the river. And I'm going to have to get a little bit further ahead here. I'm making it to relax a little bit. Now I'm getting over that wave. There we go. And we just bumped into it. I don't know if you felt that or saw the canoe shake a little bit. That's when we actually hit that tree. And I can sit here and rest now for as long as I want. Now there's one thing else about this that I want to talk to you about. Sounds like there's a boat coming up by us. We'll see here in a couple minutes. Yeah, here he comes. Let's let the boat go by and then I'll talk to you. I don't know if you can see him or not. I'll try and get over here so you can. There he is right behind me right there. I'll get myself dislodged and get over here, away from him. Let him pass over my right shoulder. Hello! Pretty good! It's a sheriff's boat. Interesting. Oh, I'm fine. Let me come on over to you. How's it going?
Good. How about you?
Just fine. Well, what I'm doing is talking about life in an analogy on the river and using some of my experiences in life in the river itself, the eddies, the currents, and everything we have to go by. You guys out on patrol?
Yep.
Well, good for you. We appreciate having you, I'll tell you that. Okay, take care. Now that was our Douglas County Sheriff's Department. Checking the river out. Wanted to make sure I was okay. Don't see too many canoes out here. Probably still hear him in the background there. He's not making a lot better time than I am. I'm actually drafting off of his wake right now. Good. Now I'm out in the current. I'm going to have to go over towards the shore. Oh, that was very interesting. I've got the sun right to my back, too. Okay. Moving fairly fast. I've got to turn us around so that we don't hit the side here. There we go. And we're right at the side of the river. Huh. That was interesting. Okay. So we got something on tape that I didn't expect. Now we're in a back eddy right along the side of the river. That's another thing to note, is that in any river, the current right at the side of the river is going almost in the opposite direction. Hello, Rocky. There's our good dog, Rocky. Our neighbor dog. He'll be coming up over my left shoulder here in just a second. There he is. Probably can see him right now. Now I'm going to go up into a little bit stiller water. Paddling upstream is not difficult, but it is good exercise. It's one of those exercises that exercises your upper body and your legs, because when you're kneeling like this, you put a lot of force against the canoe with your knees. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to get that sun out of being directly behind us. One thing about wearing a wetsuit is when it turns nice like this, I get pretty warm. But it's necessary for personal protection. And CJ, and Ryan, and James, when you get old enough and listen to this, there are all sorts of protection that you have to wear. When you're on the job or working or something, we became experts at that, Jim and I. We were trained to go anywhere, to jump out of airplanes, and survive in any kind of location in the world. It could have been Arctic, it could have been desert, it could have been the ocean, or forest, or wherever. We were trained to be able to survive there, and to give medical aid, and bring people out. And that brings me to another point that I'd like to make, and that has to do with dedication. We don't see that too often anymore, but that's what Jim and I had. That's what Jim especially had, was dedication to his job. His job was about the most important thing to him because he had sworn on these words, "These things I do that others may live." Now, this ultimately caused a lot of heartache. We go through some rivers, we got a river behind me. I don't know what's down below here. I'm going to take you on a journey in a minute and show you, because I'm going to turn the camera around, that we can see a distance into the future. We can predict some things. We can predict the weather within a day or two. We can predict our plans for going up someplace on a vacation in the future. What we can't predict are those things that could intervene. And Jim, CJ and Ryan and James, your granddad, couldn't have predicted that he would be going to Vietnam, and couldn't have predicted the outcome of doing that. He had seen a lot of action over there. He had seen some things. I'm going to show you some of what he had seen in some footage that I took in Super 8mm movies. That'll be later on after I get out of the canoe. But he had done some wonderful things over there. The day that he was killed, he had done some wonderful things. And he wasn't expecting to have what happened happen. We wear personal protective equipment. I wear this life jacket, this wetsuit, these gloves, because the water here is very cold. It's in the 40s and low 40s degrees Fahrenheit. The air temperature right now is in the 60s, which is great, but it doesn't help a whole lot when something like some catastrophic thing happens, like happened to your granddad and your dad for Julie and Lisa and Symphony. Excuse me here just a second, I'm a little bit tired from that. I'm going to start moving us a little bit here. What I'm trying to say is that like a river has islands in it, sometimes we get swept into areas we don't want to go and have to experience things we don't want to have to experience. That happens to us all. And when it does, we can take that experience and live with it and grow with it, but there are times when tragic things happen. Now I showed you, here's this tree right here, I got swept into the river. It's dead now, but it's providing habitat for fish down there. Now, I showed you with the balloons that the water that's in the balloon doesn't go away. It contributes water to the river. Whereas people with a lot of hot air, when their balloon is popped, no water's contributed. Jim had a lot of love in his heart, and he contributed a lot. And we are the way we are today. I am the way I am. Your family is the way you are, in due in part to this contribution that Jim had. Due in large part for you, due in smaller part for me, but it was still significant. Now I'm going to come down here and I'll turn the camera around. We'll go downstream a little ways and come back up. I'm swinging into an eddy here. You'll see the sun swinging in behind me. I'm going to go over to the shoreline. There's another dog over there that I don't know. I'm not sure if he's going to like me or not. If he doesn't, we'll record some interesting things on film. Let me get up here just a little bit here. There we go. Okay, let me turn this around so that you can see where we're going. I'm going to have to change the orientation here. Let's see what it shows here. Okay, that should do it. Now you'll probably be able to hear my voice, but you won't be able to see me for a little bit. And you'll be able to see forward, but not behind you. So we'll get out here. Turn the canoe downstream. And head down. For just a little while, and then come back up. Now you can see us going downstream. I'm going to show you those eddies and what they look like. As we approach them. Okay, there's the river in front of us. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous day river. See all of the trees that were knocked down a year ago, and where the water line maybe is or was. Now the camera's looking right into the sun. It's probably stopped down so it gets pretty dark, but that's okay. It'll give you a different perspective on what you're seeing. We're going to go around, come back, and find that bush that I was behind just a while ago. They're off to my right now. The camera's right. My right and camera are the same. Okay, see that bush right over there? We're going to try and get in behind it. And this can represent, say, our jobs or our school or whatever it is that we decide to do for a period of time. And it might be a number of them. Here I'm going to pull in behind another one that's downstream of that one, then I'll rest for a moment. There we go. You can probably see it now. Right up ahead. I'm going to rest in the eddy of this one, and then we'll go upstream to the next one. Now we're crossing that interface where the current is a little bit heavier and into the next one. We're going upstream again in the eddy. And this is the one where I actually hit the tree and you don't get stuck. There we go. And we stop. You wouldn't think a canoe could stop in the middle of the river, but it can. Now a little buzzing in here is the limbs of this tree rubbing against the side of the canoe in the water. But we're stopped. I'm not paddling. I don't want to go straight ahead because I don't want to go over this tree. I want to go around it, so I'm going to have to back off. I'll back off here. What I'm doing now, backing off a little bit, sticking in the shadow, back in the fast water. I'm going to go to the right so I can get into the next eddy up ahead. There we go. Sometimes it takes a little bit more work. Sometimes it takes a lot of work to get there. I'm going to back up just a little bit over to the right, and you'll see the type of water we have to contend with. See those whirls? This is not slow water. This is fast water. It's not rapids, though. Rapids are an entirely different situation. We'll talk about that when I get a rest break up here after I get into this next one. Okay, let's go. Now I've got to really put some leverage on this canoe to get up here. Okay. Quite far. I've got that little bit of a wave I got to get over. Okay, over. I'm into the bush, but it's pushing me off to the right. That means I can't stay here. And that happens sometimes. You think you got your goal, and something will happen, and you can't get there. So what do? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. One of them is try again. So we're going to come from the right, swing back around behind this thing, and try again. This time I don't want to put my canoe to the right of that boil because I know what will happen. I'm going to put it to the left. See what happens then. Here, maintain a position. Over the top, and I think I'm going to maintain a little bit. A bit heavier than that. Okay. Right. Now I stop paddling, and you come up just right there. The bush putting up the pressure. Just maintain this position with a little tiny bit of a stroke and not worry about it. Now that I'm on the left side of the bush instead of the right side of the bush, the right side of the bush is not the left. Right. Okay, I'm going to let us go backwards. You can feel the not paddling at all, we're just slowly moving backwards. the bush. Back up. That's where we were stayed. Now we're going to go over to the side, across the current. And when we get over to the side, I'm going to turn the camera around again. And we'll talk about obstacles and rapids. Isn't that beautiful? It's a gorgeous, gorgeous river. It's North Umpqua. And it's pretty high right now. It's even prettier when it's a lot lower in the summertime. Okay, I'm going to come over here where I can. Tell you what, since we're talking about obstacles, let's go downstream just a little bit and look at the rapids that are crossing over here. And then we'll come back up. Take us to a point where we can see the rapids. See them over there? But we're not going to get in. We're going to swing around behind a couple of bushes and come back upstream again. Just do it. Rapids are sometimes things to be avoided unless you're ready for them. They can be exciting too, but you don't necessarily want to be there. Okay, I'm going to swing us around and go back upstream. Away from the rapids. I'm going to use the eddies. There's one that I'm swinging in behind right now. Go back upstream. Get over here to the side and we'll turn the camera around again so you can see the paddle. Not that it's any fun without being in the canoe itself, but it will give you a different perspective. Okay, we're right on shore here. Just a moment. Swing this around. And I'll swing the camera around so you can see me talking here. If I don't fall out of this thing first. That's always a danger when you're trying to show off. It's a big way of getting in trouble with girlfriends. Okay, up towards the sky. Now down. And I'll position a little bit here. And that should be good. Okay, here we go again. Back upstream. Right now I've got the sun right behind me, so I'm going to go across the current here. Above the rapids. I'm not going to get in the rapids. Not unless I'm, quote, swept in. And the only way I'm going to be swept in if something happens that I don't foresee. That means it's real important to try and foresee things. And we foresee things based on our experience. Now, I've got a lot of experience with this part of the river, and I know it by heart. I've swam it. I understand it. I know its ins and outs and its tricks, and so I'm going to stay away from the bad parts. Okay, we're going to try and get above this obstacle. You got to watch out for obstacles. You never approach any obstacle the same way twice. It never happens. Any of your experiences that you have in life will never be presented again in exactly the same way, but you can use those experiences to get generalities about life and how to cope with life. And there's the rapids right below us. We could actually go through this pretty easily with this canoe, especially at this water state. But I'm not going to risk my mom's camera with it. My wife Chris would be most unhappy to find out that I'd lost both the canoe and the camera in one trip. So we won't even risk that. Now, a canoe has an advantage over some other crafts in that it can go in places where other craft can't go. I'll show you that in just a moment here. We're going to go into a very narrow opening where there's not very much current. If it'll let me, I'll see if there's a rock down there. It'll stop us. It doesn't look like it right now. Okay, see this island right here? This is a real life island. It's a very small one. But it does break up the current of the river, so it allows us to do things that we wouldn't normally be able to do with the canoe, like go upstream. Okay. Now we're going to go across again, approximately where we went across to get to the bush last time. And I'm doing that mainly so that I won't have the sun directly behind me. It's kind of bad for the camera lens to be looking right straight at the sun. So I'm going to corner this just a little bit. I'm about 100 feet above where I was, and coming up a little bit higher. I'm getting in one eddy, but I'm going to go right through it and use it as a stepping off place. CJ, Ryan, and James, you'll understand this a little bit better when you're older and see this tape maybe. But that's the same effect that some of the scientists are using with some of our space probes when they're sending them to other planets. They'll use another planet and its gravity to fling it. And what I was doing there was using the eddy to give me momentum to get across this river and get upstream. In case you don't know, there's a lot of physics in what I do with the canoe, because the canoe responds to every paddle pull that I make. And I'm using a double paddle for a reason. This double paddle with long paddles are much more effective on this full-size canoe. This is an 18-foot canoe that's not made for a single person because it's wider than most canoes. If I were to use a single paddle, and I've got one down here, I'll show you what I mean. This is how I'd have to paddle. And you can see it's not as effective. I can make progress, but not as well. That means that we've got to use the right tools for the job. That's important. Now, I'm going to get hit there. There we go. Camera got, you probably heard that a little bit. Camera got a couple of pieces of grass on it. Or grass, those are twigs, branches from this tree that's on my left. Whoops. Okay, let's go up. And I got to get up on the current here and go higher. Well, I was talking, I think, I've made a lot of different shots. Some of them I'm going to use, some of them I'm not. But I was talking about how things change, sometimes imperceptibly, sometimes very quickly. I've been working real hard at getting a new job. I checked today and I've got over 90 firms that I have contacted. Most of them have rejected me. My wife is getting real down because of this. But I had one that called me up and wanted an interview a few weeks ago. I went up there and by golly, I found it. And coming from the background I do, this is a high-tech firm. It's called E-Tech. And they make the machines that make printed circuit boards. And they need somebody that has a background in safety and health. They also need somebody who's tried and tested and everything, because they've got some other people that are on their team that might be disagreeable. So I interviewed for them, and then they asked me up for a second interview. I went up for the second interview and talked with 5 people over 3 hours. Found out that that went well. I got a call today, and they're checking references. And we'll see how it goes. But what I guess I'm trying to say is that when you get into a situation where you fail, you haven't. Failure is simply another stepping stone, just like out here on the river when I got into that eddy and got thrown out by the wave. What do? You go back again and try again from a different angle or a different slant. You try a different place. You keep on going. You keep on plugging. Now, in our pararescue work, Jim and I learned that because we had to go through some really, really strenuous schools. We started out, there were something like 700 applicants per class, and from those applicants, they picked 25. I was one of the 25 in 1967. Jim was one of the 25 somewhat earlier than that. Then they start going through the schools, and people start dropping out. Either they can't hack the regimen. It's very physical, very tough. We had to run. I had come out of basic camp or basic training after standing guard at barracks at night and eating donuts, and the first thing they wanted us to do was go out on a 5 or 7 mile run. And I dropped out the first day. But I showed up again the second day, and I dropped out again the second day. By the third day, I was so stiff and sore I couldn't reach under my bed from sitting on my bed to pick up my boots. I had to get down on my hands and knees. But I put my boots on and went back out there again, ran with them again. And after a few weeks of that, my body acclimatized, I got in condition, and I was able to do it. When we were starting out at Lackland, when they were trying to cull down the 700 applicants to 30 or 25, we had one place where we had to swim, and we had to go to an Army base to a really warm pool. It must have been 95 degrees. Oh, 2 ducks just took off ahead of us. Wow. And swim. And we had to swim, it was at least 1,000, I think it was 2,000 yards. Now, I've been on a swim team, and that didn't seem like much to me. And I saw this guy who was built like a swimmer. Just a very well-built, tall, lean fellow. Looked like a champion swimmer. And he was up on the pool deck sitting there after I'd completed just a few laps, and I had to continue, but I didn't understand what was going on. I found out later his name was Ed Redl. He was from, I believe, Oklahoma, and he was a championship wrestler, not swimmer. Here, we'll go across the river again while I'm telling this story. He wanted pararescue very, very bad. He wanted it so badly that he jumped in that pool in the deep end knowing he didn't know how to swim. And the pararescueman there, I don't know, maybe your father was among them, it's possible, because I think he was there about that time. This was at Lackland. They'd come up from Florida for us. But they had to go in and pull this guy out, keep him from drowning, pull him off the bottom, and get him out. And they said, "What the heck is going on?" He says, "Sir, I can't swim." "Well, why did you jump in?" "Because I want pararescue, sir." Well, he earned a slot of the 25, and I taught him how to swim. And he came out through scuba school about halfway up in his class. That's how much he wanted what he got. What I'm saying is that determination beats anything. If you got determination, you can do just about anything you want to do. This life is full of people with determination. But without determination, you can have all the smarts in the world, and you're not getting anywhere. You've got to try and try and try again. There is no such thing as failure. There is simply another thing that you have done, that you have completed, that may not have paid off the way you wanted it, but will eventually, because it will accumulate in your experience and give you the experience you need to do the things you want to do in life. That's what I've found out over the years. Right now, our family, if I get the job in Beaverton, our family's going to face another interesting situation with one boy in school at Oregon State University in Corvallis. We've got a very nice home in Roseburg here. And then I'd be up in Beaverton, 120 miles away, 5 days a week. Well, that's possible if we decide it's possible. It's something that we want to do. Eventually, we'll probably move to Beaverton and explore that area. What I'm saying is that there are all sorts of possibilities out there. All you have to do is decide that they're for you. Jim did that. He didn't plan on what happened in Vietnam. He had other plans. But because he did the things he did, there are other people who have plans and who are able to walk and do them now on this earth that wouldn't have been able to. And because of him, I'm around. I'm different. You're different. You're different people than you would have been. And we should honor this man, Jim Thomas. He did a lot in his short life. That's more than some of these people with all air do in 90 years. They can make all the money they want. They can have all the power, but if they don't have love, if they don't show it, and they don't do something with their life, they haven't done much. Well, I'm going to dock us over here. I've been expanding on this for a while, and then we'll go see some movies. I've put on tape the Super 8mm movies that I took at Florida and Eglin and in Vietnam, and I think you'll enjoy them. They show some of the jumps we made in Florida into the water, and they show the area around DaNang, Vietnam, that Jim and I flew in 1971. Okay, we're here. These are some of the things we learned while we were in school. It has to do with knots and lashing. I use a paddle here so that I can carry the canoe in comfort. I got to lash it back up because I use these to put the tripod onto the tripod to lash it to the canoe here. Oops, try that again. I got to do that around here. Okay. Now we'll see if I got any strength left. Paddle back. Spot. And secure my life jacket. There we go. Okay, let's see how much strength left. There we go. I'll see you later. This video is one that I shot in Super 8mm movie format years and years ago when I was a member of the 37th Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Squadron at DaNang, Vietnam. This sign is showing you that the commander of the unit was Lieutenant Colonel Royal A. Brown. And it says, Valley of the Jolly Green Giants. Fighter pilots have no fear. The Jolly Green Giants are always near. Satisfied customers, 613. That is the number of saves or lives saved that this unit had at that time, which was about March of 19
71. So this video is talking about or showing some of the flight information that we would see normally in our training flights and things like this. This is not combat or anything like that, but it has videos of our training, and I hope you enjoy it. We are flying out of DaNang and looking down on one of the Army or Air Force helicopters. We are flying in a HH-53C Super Jolly Green Giant, and here we're looking down on the delta and one of the river bridges. Some of the traffic around DaNang on roadways. And this is one of the compounds that we flew over. There's another one of the helicopters that was in the area. Looking at a church, probably Roman Catholic. And here we're doing some close ground flying, tactical flying, so that you can see that we're very close to the ground. We flew over fishing villages, and this is one of the villages the boats are in and the nets are out drying. Vietnam has some of the prettiest beaches in the world, and this is looking down on some of those beaches, and again, some of the fishing boats. This is a ship that ran aground for a long time. Monkey Mountain was the command center for DaNang for rescue forces, and that was a picture of it. And then we're looking down on, again, the water. I was fascinated by the clear water, warm water, and the coral reefs that are off Vietnam. Here we're going to show you some refueling sequences. This is an HC-130 that is coming just off to our right side, and we're going to be linking up with it. In a minute you'll see it letting out the refueling lines and the drogue that we will have to plug into. Here comes the fueling line with the drogue pulling it out. Now you saw the ramp was down. Not sure why they had their ramp down, but this is a view from the HH-53C Super Jolly Green Giant cockpit of the refueling. And you can see the refueling probe is now in the drogue, and it is in place where it's supposed to be, and we're getting fuel. This air-to-air refueling concept was unknown for a long time, and finally it started out with the HH-3E Jolly Green. That was the first refueling helicopter the Air Force had, and then our Super Jollies are now there. These are helicopter revetments off DaNang. Now revetments are structures that will prevent a rocket from scoring a hit on more than one of the planes there. Yes, there was surfing, and I believe that was the Army that was able to do that. I was never able to get into the water there. Now we're flying over a Vietnamese POW camp. And you can see a formation of people on the ground there. buildings are marked PW so that hopefully none of the enemy would shell them. Here we have a flight of U.S. Marine helicopters going by. And actually we had some recreational facilities. This is a tennis court that was set up at the DaNang Air Base. Some close air sport helicopters. And what you're seeing here is the remains of a Jolly Green Giant helicopter that had apparently been shot down and lost. More close air support helicopters flying by. Now we're going to look at some practice hoist operations. When we were flying, we just didn't go out and fly. We did a lot of training. And this is what the training looked like. Now you can see the flight engineers in the right door with the hoist. You can't see the actual hoist, but you can see the jungle penetrator that he has. And this is a device that will go straight down through trees and then has folding seats that can be unfolded, and a person can get in them. And then on the side there's straps that can be, there's a zip compound or compartment, and somebody can get into the straps or into the seats and strap themselves in and then come on up. And all of the Air Force pilots that were flying were trained on how to do that. That was a land one. We flew over a lot of fishing boats on our time. Here they've got nets out. This is what the ocean looked like out there, just looking off coast. This South China Sea, and we are looking east, I believe. We're coming up on using or practicing with the miniguns, and what the flight engineer is doing is throwing out a 60-minute flare, and he'll throw out another one here in just a minute. And those will be the targets that we're trying to hit. There's another one. No, actually, it looks like we're going to do a water hoist operation. We'll save the minigun work for a little bit later. Yep, here comes the hoist down. And we're using the same jungle penetrator on the water. And we're looking down on our own shadow here. Makes a pretty spectacular image. You can get an idea of the prop wash from the rotor blades or the rotor wash by seeing what it did to that flare. The pilots needed to train tactically, and so they did a lot of training fairly close to the ground and moving very fast. Here we're at treetop level, going in for a hoist, I believe. This will be a land hoist. You can see the hoist below the aircraft there in the picture. It's right in the center of the aircraft. Now we've picked up the hoist and we're headed out. The idea is to stay very low to the trees so that when we go over, nobody has a chance to actually get the gun up and shoot at us. Then we hit the coastline and we're out. Okay. Roy Taylor's going to show us a little bit about the minigun here. And Steve Rohde, the other pararescueman on board with me. Right there, he's preparing their minigun, putting the bullets, which are linked together, into the feed mechanism and getting ready to do some firing. Here's some firing right here. Now, when the minigun fires, it fires at 2,000 or 4,000 rounds per minute. If you hold down the left trigger, it was 2,000. If you hold down both triggers, it's 4,000 rounds per minute. And believe it or not, it sounds something like this. So I'll do that. When Steve does another little bit of shooting. Here we go. That's what it sounds like. And it is so loud that you can feel the bones in your ear moving. And you can see that we're traveling at probably 150 miles per hour, and those bullets were about a foot apart on the ground. Now what Steve's doing is removing the bullet, the feeder delinker, from the minigun. He's going to safety the minigun because we're headed home. Now we were given armor to wear, and a lot of us didn't wear it. We put it on the floor and sat on it because the armor for the chest wasn't much good if a bullet came up from below. Now these are actually shell fires. We were off the coast of North Vietnam, and I believe these were aimed at us, actually. And we skedaddled out of there and got further away. Some more Vietnamese fishing boats out on the ocean. You can see the net, and it's quite far down. Some really pretty beach areas over there. And you can see our hoist in the picture there. Some more fishing boats, and these are pretty close to shore. Another one of the South Vietnamese beaches. This is a landing craft, and I'm not sure why it was there, but we flew over it and I got a picture. I don't know if they were training or if they were actually moving things around. Another practice hoist here over the jungle. And we are in a steady hover here. Now, in a tactical situation, there would be two miniguns, one on the left side, one on the rear, that would help defend us, and we'd have the minigun on the right side stowed because we had the door open, and we'd have a machine gun sitting on the floor. We flew over a lot of fishing boats, so I got some film of them. And this is what DaNang looked like. This is the shoreline here, and then some of the living quarters and beaches. These houses are actually built on stilts, and they're out over the water. That's another Jolly Green that's on its side that we lost at one point or another. Some of the fighters, the close air support fighters, and some of the activity on DaNang Air Base as we were coming into the field. This is an Air America airplane. Air America was owned by CIA, and it flew missions out of there. This is the Air America building at DaNang. Here we have a ground person who's looking at the rotors, and there's some chocks that need, as the rotors come down, they need to ensure that those are in place. They come down. Here we have Danny Hancock, Steve Rohde, Wright Taylor, and one other PJ going out to greet, I believe this is the coming home or the landing of the second trans-Pacific flight of helicopters. Yes, you can tell that because the drop tanks are larger and they're white rather than combat green. These helicopters have been flown from Eglin Air Force Base in Florida all the way to Vietnam, to Da Nang, Vietnam. And this is one of our Super Jollies taking off for a flight. Here you can see them coming in. They're chalking the wheels, and that's the end of the video. This is the last segment from the 37th Squadron. Here we have a pilot coming in from Laos. This is a 4 June 1971 mission involving two FAC pilots, Major Ross and Lieutenant Moxon, who were lost or ejected over Laos. They were rescued by the 37th, and the pilot was Donald Jensen. The co-pilot was Joseph Crow. The FE was Jerry Birchfield. The three PJs were George Andy, Michael Morris, and Al Avery. They had an alternate pilot, J.W. Wines, too. here they're coming in. You can see fuel streaming from the thing. You can see Jim Thomas giving his famous thumbs up. There you can see the fuel coming out of the right wing tank. And here, one of the maintenance people has put his thumb in the bullet hole. We had a tradition of hosing the crew and the survivors when they got back. The survivors, Major Ross here, and Lieutenant Moxon being congratulated by Don Jensen, the pilot, and with Michael Morris in the background. Michael got a lot of congratulations from others here too. Now this is the 37th thanking the Sandy pilots for their close air support. And that's an important part of what we did. Now I use this slide. We lost both Al and Jim. Al to the Bat-21 mission, Jim to a crash in Vietnam. And I use this to keep their memory alive with Living History Day at high schools locally. This is the Pararescue Creed. It is my duty as a pararescueman to save life and aid the injured. I will be prepared at all times to perform my assigned duties quickly and efficiently, placing these duties before personal desires and comforts. These things I do that others may live. Udo Fischer was our cartoonist, and he made this drawing of a PJ as a jack of all trades. Well, it's been a fairly long video. I know that. I gave you some intermissions here. I hope that you enjoyed it. I wish you a happy new year and a much better 2021. Take care.